morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We will begin with chapter 28, verse 10. Chapter 28, verse 10, the beginning of Parshas Vayeitze. Vayeitze Yaakov Beersheva. Yaakov left Beersheva, Vayelech Harana, and he went to Haran. Remember, he's on this journey to go to Lavan's house to flee for his life, to find someone to marry. There's a very famous Rashi on this pasuk. The verbs here seems to be an extra verb in here. Yaakov left Beersheva and he went to Haran. Couldn't just have said Yaakov went to Haran. If it would have said he went to Haran, obviously he left Beersheva in order to go to Haran. If you look at the Kli Yakar on pasuk Yud, he cites Rashi, Piresh Rashi, Lo Yitzarech Lichtov Ela Vayelech Yaakov Harana. It only needed to say Yaakov went to Haran. Ela Magid Shiatzias Hatzadik Min Hamakom Ose Roshem. Rashi brings down the Medrash that the pasuk is conveying to us here that when Yaakov left Beersheva, it impacted Beersheva that Yaakov was no longer there. That to have a pious person, a righteous person in a place impacts the place. And when he leaves, it's not just that he went to Haran, it's that his departure, there was now a void in Beersheva. Very famous Rashi, very nice idea to think about. But there's an obvious question on this. V'yesh lisboning, there's what to reflect on. V'chi Avram v'Yitzchak lo holchu mimakom l'makom. Did Avram or Yitzchak never go from place to place? V'lama lo nichtav etzlam lashon yitzia. Why didn't it never say for Avram or Yitzchak's journeys that they left one place and they went somewhere else? Was it only Yaakov that when he left the place, there was a void because he left? He was the only pious person like that? Why would the Torah wait until the third generation of the patriarchs to convey this message? You could say it one of two very different ways. Ki Avram v'Yitzchak lo hinichu b'makom sheholchu misham tzadik mosam pshita sheyitziasam osaroshem. V'kan hari Yitzchak v'Rivka nisharu sham sal kadai tachamina she'ein yitziasu osaroshem kamash b'lam. So the first answer that he gives is, of course, if Abraham and Sarah and their entourage left the place, there was a difference because they left, because there was no one who was pious left behind. Of course, if Yitzchak and Rivka left the place, it made a difference because there was no one pious left behind. But in this case, Yaakov leaves and Yitzchak and Rivka are still living in Beersheva. So you might say to yourself, okay, there are still righteous people there. There's one less righteous person. Too bad. But the box is checked. There are righteous people here. No. Every righteous person makes a difference. Even though there were righteous people left behind, it still impacted the place that he left. That's the first answer that he gives. If you go on to the next paragraph, skipping a few lines, and you could explain it the other way as well. Lomar shadavka yitziyaso shel Yaakov osaroshem. It could be that only when Yaakov left did it make a difference. Avalo yitzias Avram v'Yitzchak, but not the departures of Avram and Yitzchak. V'shehem aholchu im kol b'nei beisam. V'lo nishar b'makom shum tzadik. Al kain lo asu roshem b'yitziasam. Karasham shedasharu shama einam makpid b'yitzias hatzadikim. V'yadrabim smeichim b'tzeisam mehem v'sheinan holchim b'darcheim. So he says a very interesting thing. He says, so the first pshat is you should know that even Yaakov's departure made a difference. The second pshat is Yaakov was the first tzaddik whose departure made a difference. You know why? Because of all the other times that a tzaddik left, there was no one left behind to care. Of course, theoretically, the place is different because the spiritual person wasn't there. Nobody behind to miss them. Now, Yitzchak and Rivka are people of piety themselves. So now when Yaakov leaves, they feel the difference. So two very different ideas in the Kli Yakar, but very obvious question, interesting approach. Okay, verse 12, the famous dream of Yaakov. Vayachalom, Yaakov dreamt, V'nei sulam mutzav arza. There is a ladder stationed on the ground, V'roshom agiyah shamayma, with the head of the ladder going up to the heavens. V'nei malachei Elokim olim v'yordimbo. And behold, the angels of God were going up and down the ladder. V'nei Hashem nitzav alav vayomar, and God was at the top of the ladder, and he said, Ani Hashem, Elokei Avraham Avicha v'Elokei Yitzchak. I am Hashem, the God of Avraham, your father, the God of Yitzchak. Haaretz asher atah shochay v'oleha l'chva etneno l'zarecha. That land that you're currently lying on, it will go to you and your offspring. 14. Vayazaracha kafar haaretz. Your offspring will be like the dust of the earth. Foratzcha yamav akadmav tzafon of a negba. You'll spread out in all directions. And all the families of the land will be blessed through you and your offspring. 15. Behold, I am with you. I will guard you in all that you walk. I will bring you back to this land. I will not let you go until I've done everything that I promised to do for you. Powerful words from God, powerful assurance. Of course, think of the context. Yaakov is fleeing for his life. He's leaving everything that he has behind. He's wandering off who knows where. And God comes and conveys this message to him that he'll be with him, he'll protect him. But the physical image is very famous, but worth thinking about. What does it all mean? There's a ladder, with angels going up and down and God at the top. What does that mean? Ramban on Pasuk Yud Beis. V'nei sulam mutzav artzav rosho magia shomayma, v'nei malachei Elokim olim v'yordim bo. Hereu b'chalom hanavua. God is now showing Yaakov through a prophetic vision. Ki chol hanasa ba'aretz nasa ayidei malachim. Everything that happens in the land happens through the work of the angels. The angels have a hand in everything that goes on. V'akol b'gzeres elyon aleim. And when we say the angels are involved with everything, it's based on the divine decree that the angels are doing whatever they're doing. Ki malachei Elokim, the angels of God, asher shalach Hashem lishalech ba'aretz, that God sent out to go through the land. Lo yasu katana o gedola, they won't do a small or great thing. Ad shuvam lisyatzev aladon kol haaretz, until they've returned to the master of the earth. Lemor lefanav hisalachnu ba'aretz, to report to God and say, we've gone through the land. V'nei yosheves b'shalva, and everything seems calm. O melech erev adam, or heaven forbid, there's plenty of sword and blood there. And then God instructs the angels to go back down and do X or do Y. V'hereyu ki hu yisparach nitzav ala sulam. God is showing Yaakov that he is at the top of the ladder. Umavticho li Yaakov b'avtacha gedola, and he gives Yaakov great assurance. Lo dia shahu lo yiyah biyad hamalachim. Yaakov will not be subject to the whims of the angels. Aviyachelek Hashem, but God will be over him. V'yiyah imo tamid, and God will always be with him. So it's not only that I run the world, it's not only that I have proxies taking care of everything, but I will take a very personal interest in your situation. Kamosha Amar, v'nei anochi imach. God says, I'm with you. Ushmarticha b'chol asher telech, and I will guard you in all that you go. Ki ma'alaso gedola mishar tzadikim. This is a very unique thing, even compared to other righteous people. This is a very unique level of protection that God is assuring to Yaakov. Shenemar bohem, it says by righteous people in general. Ma'am, this is Zaydi's pasuk. Ki ma'alachav yitzavelach l'shmorcha b'chol drachecha. That his angels, God will instruct his angels to guard you on all of your path. That's an amazing thing to say. And that's the normal blessing for the tzaddik. But God says for Yaakov, it's more. Forget the angels. I'm involved. It's a very interesting Ramban. It gives such significance to the image of the angels going up and down the ladder. They're running everything, and it's all on God's say-so. V'yaldasra v'elezer hagadol. Now there's another idea that this image is supposed to evoke ideas connected to Avraham with the bris bein habasarim, with this special covenant with God. That part of the idea of the covenant with Avraham is he talks about the different exiles. So now God shows Yaakov that the governance of the four different monarchies, the four different exiles, and them going up and them coming down. V'zetam malachei Elokim. That's what's meant when we talk about the angels. Sar malchus yavan, sar malchus pras. The angels are these celestial beings that represent different nations. V'evticho ki hu yis'al yi'imo b'chol asher yilech b'neihem v'yishmerenu v'yatzilenu miyadam. And God is saying to Yaakov that whatever happens, not just for you, but for your offspring, whatever challenges you and your offspring face with these four powers, I'll always be there. The powers will go up the ladder, the powers will come down the ladder, I'll be at the top of the ladder. Amru, Herelo HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Al B'malchios Moshlam V'Avdon, Hereo Sar Malchus Bavel Ola Shivim. Okay, I don't want to go through this whole medrash now, but a powerful thing. So two pshatim. One idea is just whatever happens in life, the angels are running it, and the angels are answering to me. The other pshat is it's a reference to the four exiles, and that these angels are the divine beings, the celestial beings that represent different nations. And sometimes they're up and sometimes they're down, but I'm always watching over all of it, says God. Okay, now let's just glance at, maybe keep a finger on verse 15 and glance ahead to verse 20 for a second. So Yaakov wakes up. Yaakov is extremely moved by this dream, as I'm sure many of us would be. Hopefully all of us would be. And now he says, Vayidar Yaakov neder limor. And Yaakov takes a vow and he says, Im yelu ki mimadi, if God will be with me, ushmarani b'derech hazeh asher anochi olech, and he guards me on this path upon which I go, v'nasan li lechem le'echol v'eged l'bosh. He gives me bread to eat, clothing to wear, v'shavti v'shalom o beis avi, and I will return in peace to the house of my father. V'yoashem li lelukim, and God will be for me God. If everything goes well, v'oheven azos asher samti matzivo yeh beis elukim. This stone that I've placed down as a monument will be a house of God. V'chol asher titen li, and everything you give me, aser asrenu lach, I will tithe to you. Okay, a few questions here. Generally speaking, two questions. First question is a very, very basic, very, very important question. God says he's going to do these things. God just gave these remarkable assurances to Yaakov. Yaakov says, you know what, God? I'll tell you what. You follow through on your end of the bargain, I'll build the house of God. I'll make a donation. Well, do you believe? I mean, he said he was going to do it. Do you? He didn't say, I'll do it if you promise something or another. The promise, on the one hand, is very nice, but actually it implies a lack of confidence that God will follow through on his assurance. What's going on with that? Second point, a little bit more specific. God promises something in verse 15, and verse 20 is clearly a response. So he says, if God will be with me, and God will guard me on this path which I go. What God said is, I'll guard you in all that you go. He didn't talk about a path. Now, God says, I will bring you back to this land. Yaakov says, if I return in peace to the house of my father. It's not matching up exactly. In other words, on the one hand, he's clearly referring to God's promises. But on the other hand, there's nuances of difference between what God says and what Yaakov's talking about. So we will see a kliyakar about this tomorrow, God willing. So we had the kliyakar that discussed why the medrash about Yaakov's departure from Beersheba made a great difference, why it should specifically be by Yaakov. And we had the Ramban, who shared with us two ideas about the importance of the imagery of the ladder with the angels going up and down.